Hi, everybody. We back again. That's right. Second week in a row. You didn't think we could do it, but here we are. We said that we'd try to be consistent and, we're going. Jesus says you run this race, it's not for the swift, but, you keep going and you keep enduring. So, yes, welcome to another episode of the Second Nature podcast. This is episode 43, and we have two very special guests on the podcast with us. One has been on here before, and another one has never been on here before. So I'll let them decide who wants to introduce themselves first.
Men first.
Ladies first.
Okay, thank you. Hi guys, my name is Heike Faith. So I'm the one that's been on here before, and I'm glad to be back. Be excited to talk about today's topic. I think it's very, very necessary, so it should be a good one.
Hi guys, my name is Emmanuel. Manny, SOG, if you are on social media. Making my debut, making my on the podcast, and I'm very excited to be here. Should be an amazing conversation.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Manny SOG was my first housemate in university. So we go way back. Yeah. I remember walking through the halls, moving in and going into my room and then walking out my room and looking at the hall and I see another black guy at the end of the hall. I'm like, oh,
the blacks.
I said, the blacks have to stay together. Woo! And from then on, it's been a beautiful journey, man.
It really has been. Thierry, you're amazing, man. Amazing. And I love how we've managed to, because I've been back to London graduated in 2017. Been back in London for the past 4 or 5 years after that. And obviously still very close. So that's amazing.
Yeah. We'll do this after the cut.
I was gonna say, let's bring it down.
Okay, Aramide. Black men are showing each other love, and you're trying to interrupt. But now they'll come on social media and say, "Black men are this, black men are that."
Yeah, men showing each other affection gives me the ick.
Wow.
I'm joking.
Wow. That's a problem.
I'm joking.
Wow.
I said I'm joking.
We need to address that.
Someone on Twitter said men running for the bus or like shivering in the cold. And I was like, so you're not allowed to be cold?
No, as a man, you have to be warm. Why are you bowing down to the coldness? Come on. Strength. Yeah. Sue like Ronaldo. Come on.
Oh my gosh. I said we're not going to talk about Ronaldo, but here we are.
I just mentioned the name, and because I mentioned his name, that brings me to talk about the topic of today, which is money. Something that he loves very much so. I see you, bro. I see you collecting your coins, but it's okay. But yeah, we're talking in relation to money more so about the hustle, the grind culture that we are in.
Let's get this bread culture.
Yeah, let's get this
grind
bread,
and die.
Yeah, that kind of lifestyle. Is there anyone wants to say first? Anything first? Aramide.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this topic earlier today, and I think there was a time on Twitter where it was just suffer, just work. If you're resting, you're wasting time. Work. No, if you are not getting that bread, thank you, Faith. Let's get this bread. There was a lot of think pieces of people who are maybe in their 30s and 40s saying, I did not take a day off. I had multiple jobs in my 20s and now I can like rest and relax. And although that's like feasible for a set group of people, I feel like sometimes you are made to feel bad if, let's say, you weren't working multiple jobs, if you weren't starting a business, because apparently everyone should have a business. If you weren't investing in Bitcoin, you have all these dodgy Instagram people following you talking about Forex. It was almost like a cult at one point. And personally, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I personally align with this. Not even from a biblical standpoint. It was where does the grind then die lead to? Like, do you continue to grind and get the bread and hustle and hustle and hustle and hustle? Like, what is your end goal? Is it just for the acquisition of like goods and money and riches? But what are you actually using it for? And I think because if you couple it with the moving in silence people, you know, some people are like, I move in silence, I don't make any news, you don't see me.
Like the G in lasagna.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That's good.
That's
Real
not
G.
my bar.
oh,
That's
oh,
not my
never
bar.
mind, never
So
mind, never
funny.
mind. Yeah, and all they'll do is, you know, they will be off the TL for ages, and they'll just post themselves like in some alleyway, like I had no shelter, no food, no clothes, and now they're like, I've got my 5 houses and 18 cars, and why they're asking, why do you have a 10-car garage? Like all these things, and you don't really see the process, and it's just kind of, it was all just for the TL, and personally, I just didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. That's my piece.
What do you guys think?
I think for me, there's always like two sides to it. There are, and the issues for me is always extremes, where you can have somebody who is like overworking, and obviously I feel like it's interesting for me to actually be here talking about this, because where I work, which I'm being challenged personally in my relationship with God, and next year I'm gonna have to make some drastic decisions. But where I work, it's very much the whole grind, work, wake up, work culture. And if you're not kind of like rooted, it can fall on you. Like you can get swept in the whole kind of hustle and bustle. But I guess everything began to change for me, and God began to kind of like change my perspective, where I actually saw in the Bible, in Proverbs, where it says, do not overwork for riches. So once I saw that verse, do not overwork for riches, Proverbs 23, I was like, oh my God, what have I been doing for the past?
The Bible is saying you can't come and kill yourself. So
Literally, I can't come and die.
And one thing I've realized why it's the extreme is dangerous, is I believe the wisdom the Bible is alluding to, do not overwork for riches, is you can overwork for riches at the expense of so much. It could be at the expense of your soul, your mental wellness, your relationships, your friendships. You can sacrifice all of those things at the altar of I must make it. So that extreme is a massive issue. But then you also have the other extreme where it's like the Bible also says, if you don't work, you would eat. And if you're lazy, you know, if you're a sluggard, your poverty is going to fall upon you. So for me, it's about how do we find that balance where we are revealing God's excellence and God's work ethic, because he's a God that, you know, Jesus said, my Father is always working, I too must work. And we know that his nature is a nature of excellence. So how do we make it about that, and without falling into the trap of overworking and it being extremely detrimental, or you being kind of completely put off where you're now like slothful and lazy, and your family now has to suffer. Now you're worse than an unbeliever because you can't even provide for your own household. Like that's what the Bible says. So for me, it's not very black or white. Sometimes it's about finding that middle ground, finding that safe place. That's what I think about when I think about this hustle and bustle kind of like lifestyle, and thinking about a biblical perspective on it. Yeah.
What do you think, Faith?
I think that the problem with this whole hustle culture is that we forget that people are individuals, right? And I believe that God helps us to sustain the things that he has called us to. So if God has not called you to run a business and you're running a business, you'll be stressed because he's not really going to be helping you to sustain that, because that's not what he's called you to. Do you get what I mean? And not to say that stress wouldn't be part of life. I think stress does come. But I think with hustle culture, it's very easy to partake in unnecessary stress that is not for you, stress that you have not been called to. So I believe that with this hustle culture, like we forget that we are individuals, and because we forget that we're individuals, we try to say, oh, this is success and everyone must do it, and everyone must do it this way, and everyone must go that direction, and everyone must start a business, and everyone must have multiple streams of income because everybody has to build generational
Seven
wealth.
streams of income.
7 streams of income.
Yes.
Like, it's ridiculous because not everybody's going to have that. You know, everyone must build generational wealth and make sure that their children's children have money. Not everyone's going to do that. And you know what? It's actually okay, because your children's children can work the same way you're working. They can build for themselves the same way you're building for yourself. You know, it's actually not by force to kill yourself for your children's children. So that's kind of like what I believe. I think we need to remember that we're individuals, and then in that, remember or even analyze and see, what is it that I have been called to? What is it that God wants for my life? Like, for me, I can definitely say that one thing that I can't allow to suffer is my relationships with people, because I care about people and I care about the people around me, my friends, my family. Like, even when I'm tired, I ensure that I turn up for them. And a lot of times that can maybe mean that I may not work on my own personal projects because I'm helping someone else. But I do know that God helps me to sustain that, and God helps me to sustain my personal projects because I'm focused on what He has called me to. But if I'm like, oh no, I can't help you because I want to build my 7th stream of income, that's not what God wants in that moment. That's not what He requires of me in that moment. And I will be stressed because He's not really there to sustain that, in my opinion. Anyway, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like what you're saying is very important within the context of being like an individual and understanding your lane, your path, your purpose, your calling, all of that stuff. But I feel like issues that we have today is the whole notion of comparison that's fueled with like social media, and everybody is doing this, everybody's doing that, and then there's this whole kind of like FOMO, fear of missing out, where you have to jump on a bandwagon and do what everybody is doing. And I think a lot of that can stem from a lack of identity, or lack of a security, or lack of an understanding of your own purpose, where you fit your shape. So I feel like it's important for us to just kind of like know what we want out of life, and know what God has kind of placed upon us, and then we can walk that path. There's something that I just wanted to kind of like, I don't know, maybe challenge a little bit, within the context of like generational wealth, because I feel like a whole nother perspective is, you don't necessarily have to work and kill yourself and break your back, in order to kind of like provide wealth for the future generation. There are things that you can do that are out there. There are assets that you can leave, or there's even insurance as well, where it's not going to cost crazy amounts of money, but it's just something that you can do to kind of like just safeguard. So I feel like if you can find a way to, because I think it's noble, it's something that it's a good thing to think about the future generation and think about their well-being, but not at the expense of, for instance, your purpose, not at the expense of your calling, not at the expense of your relationships as well. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to kind of like add into. Yeah.
And just to buttress the points that have been made, let's just piggyback. When you guys were talking, what I was thinking of was the people that I know personally, like in real life, that maybe have multiple jobs and I guess are part of the quote unquote hustle culture. The way they do it is different from the way that it's portrayed on social media. And it's really making me think, because I think like it's their life, right? So they actively devote themselves to it, but they still make time for everything else. But on social media, the amount of like even criticisms I've seen for the 9-to-5 lifestyle, some people are like, if you're working for the man, then you're not working for yourself, you're making someone else rich. Technically you are, you're making someone else rich. How can you go to bed at night knowing that you're basically like, you're just funneling, you're working your life away to funnel into someone's bank account? or if you don't have another stream of income, it's so easy to do. You need to do this, you need to do that. And what I'm seeing is there's definitely a difference between what we see online and what we actually get in person. I don't know whether it's arrogance. I don't know whether it's the majority of people that are sharing these things online. Maybe they're not actually Christian to begin with. And so the way that they share it, the heart behind it, and even how you should go about getting these riches, maybe it's not actually God-filled. Because there was even a time where people were joking about committing fraud, where they were like, oh, you don't know what kind of stuff I'm on. I'm hustling. I'm making 50K in one day. And it was like, you guys are sitting here chilling and I'm making what you make in a year in one day. Why are you chilling? It's so easy to make this money. Why are you not getting less bread? But actually, that doesn't actually emulate the people in my surroundings. And it's very important for us to actually think that if you have friends, family, uncles and aunties who, let's say, are hustling, maybe they have multiple businesses and different things to bring income in, whether it's for themselves or for the future, for their children's children or whatever, actually have a look to see whether it emulates what you see online, although what you see online tends to be the loudest. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think for me, it's just that in this generation, we try to do things big and we try to do it quickly. So there's no like foundation in how we do it. So we just want the money now so that we can either go on social media or our friends around us can see that we have arrived somewhere, and it's for validation. And sometimes it makes me think we get this money to blow it sometimes on possessions. So we're not even funding it for either the gospel, for funding it for other larger, grander sort of schemes and events. We're doing it all for our selfish means. And I remember, I believe it was Mike that said it. He said, if you can show me a bank account as a Christian and all you can see is food, Netflix, trainers, clothes, this, and you're not funding or giving to anything that's even in relation to Christianity or even pushing the gospel forward, then you seriously need to assess your like spending habits or even how you use your money, because obviously God has called us to be stewards over our money, and we shouldn't be squandering or throwing away our money aimlessly at stupid things. Now, people will say, what is stupid? You know, sometimes in this life you have to enjoy, you know, I go to work Monday to Friday, let me have a little bit of fun, get off my back. And this is where, like, where Manuel said there's two extremes. But you going to work Monday to Friday doesn't stop you from having fun, but also doesn't stop you from helping organizations that actually need help, or helping missionaries, or helping charities that actually do help. So yeah. And I'm thinking in Christianity, why are we ascribing to like this rise and grind culture, or where does it even come from?
I think for me, it's like there's two things to kind of go back to what you said in terms of the extremes, because I feel like personally, if I'm going to be completely honest and transparent, I feel like I've been on two completely end of the spectrums where
yes, you have. I can attest.
When neither of them were healthy. So I was the guy that I would have all my student loan money, I would have all the money that I was saving up, and I would literally just give it all away to homeless people, literally, with no, and Jire can attest, with no or wisdom on stewardship, because there is such a thing as stewarding what you have more, and then maybe bless out of that, or just saving. Like I had no form of financial literacy at all, and every money that came in, I thought, and there was kind of like a spirit of religion behind it as well, where it's like I felt like everything I had to give away, and I kind of found a bit of validation in my Christianity, and it kind of made me feel like I was a very, very, very good Christian because I was very, very, very giving. But that was an unhealthy kind of spectrum that people find themselves at, where they feel like they have to validate their Christianity by being even more charitable than Mother Teresa. I feel like I lived there, and then I also now lived in this culture where it's like grind. and work and make money and work and make money. And I feel like what has helped me to come
While
to
others were sleeping, you were making money. While others, they don't know what's going on.
literally everyone
I was out there making moves and you were doing niche.
even G-Ray, when I come about, every time I come around G-Ray after like 2 years of working in the industry, will be like, Emmanuel, what are you buying me? All my friends just kind of labeled me as this money man. And I feel like I've come on a journey. I've been on a journey on those two sides, two extremes. And I feel like one of the main things that God used to kind of like get at me is kind of helping me to think about the rich young ruler and also helping me think about Zacchaeus, two extremely wealthy people in the Bible that Jesus encountered. One of them, riches had his heart so much that when Jesus said, sell all of your goods and follow me, he was very distressed, extremely distressed. And obviously for him, money was in a very unhealthy place. Whereas you have Zacchaeus, who was very short and he was trying to climb on trees to be able to see Jesus. And Jesus saw the effort and Jesus said, he will come and eat with him in his house. And he spent some time with Jesus. The Bible doesn't tell us that Jesus asked him to do anything really about the money that he had, but he encountered Jesus, repented from his sins, and he himself gave half of all of his goods to the poor and also even blessed the people that he defrauded and kind of like messed up. So what God was kind of teaching me is like, money is not really the problem. It's more of a heart issue for you, where it's in this place where it's taken my kind of space in your heart, or you're in this place where it's like you feel like you have to earn my love, or you have to do something to show really how Christian and how saved you are. And it's like, none of that is healthy for you. And for me now, how I'm kind of navigating is, it's important where you can learn about the things that are out there, get a bit of financial literacy, because not just only for you, but for your loved ones is important. It's important for you, like when you're kind of raising your children and your family and your friends, you instill a very good work ethic in them, the one that Proverbs bangs on about. Like one of the scariest things for me, even when I was in university and revising for my exams, what really pushed me was, there's a proverb, I can't remember exactly where it is, but it says, one who is lazy is brother to the one who destroys. And I was thinking, is it that deep to be lazy in God's eyes? And I began to understand that it's like, it's so outside of the character and the nature of God that to God, sloth is the same thing, but we kind of rank other sins or other things that don't mirror the nature of God as higher. So we have to kind of like have this good work ethic where we can learn about how to grow our money, how to invest it, because money itself isn't the issue. Jire rightly said that we can actually use it to fund the gospel. The Bible actually says that money answers all things as well, where if you put it in the right hands with someone who has the heart that a follower of Jesus should have, and then you've actually kind of like taken time where you can to steward a bit of literacy, to know where to invest, to know how to kind of safeguard your money, how to save, how to do all of that. And at the same time, idolatry hasn't taken over where you're now killing yourself, you're killing your relationships, you're killing your peace to make money. Then you find that good balance where you're someone who's following Jesus, God has the place that he should have in your heart. And now you've also kind of educated yourself, and now in your hands, money is a servant. And you're not its servant. You're not the slave, it's the servant. And then you can use it to be a blessing here for your family. You can use it to be a blessing here for the gospel. You can use it to be a blessing here for the homeless or for the people who are suffering. And I think that's where we kind of come to a healthy place with it. But yeah.
Wow, that's profound.
Yeah, you said a lot. I said, wow, this guy's really talking. He's really speaking.
Been in some weird places with money in my time. So, and God's faithful to actually help you. Yeah. So yeah.
I guess the questions I have then, what are the right motivations for money, and what are the wrong motivations for money as a Christian? Faith?
The right motivations for money, like in terms of like wanting to make money.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I think provision, providing for your family, ensuring that you can be comfortable or even more than comfortable, and so you can give as well. Um, but I think it's again an individual thing, because people will, like, everyone will only make a certain amount of money. Do you get me? Some people will make 80K, some people will make 20K. And yes, you can be motivated to make more. But then the question is also, do you need to be motivated to make more? Do you need the more that you want to make? Like, even now, I'm currently like trying to look for a new job, and some of the jobs I'm coming across at like 80K, 85K. I said, what? But I just know that
So what industry do you work in?
this is
We'll
but I
discuss after.
just know that if, like, job roles like that, what they require of you is your soul. Like, they require you to literally, like, even companies like Google, like, they have washing machines at work so that their employees are comfortable. You can do your washing at work. You don't have to stress about all of that stuff, because they literally live at work, and that's why they pay them so much. I've heard of stories where people, like, so their family members are dying, and they're like, can I have time off? And they're like, no. Why do you think we pay you so much? We pay you so much because we can't afford to let you have time off. So, like, for me, like, your motivations.
Wait. I
Wait,
don't get that. So
okay,
how
Yeah.
can
I
you be
feel like
earning
that
this
might be an
money?
extreme, because I
No,
refuse
but
to
how can you
believe that.
how can you be earning this money if you can't even spend? You won't even have time to spend it.
Yeah,
So
you won't
what are
have
you
time to spend
accumulating
it.
it?
My parents always say that. They were like, you can't come and work and work and work, but now you're so stressed out by work that you can't even actually enjoy the riches that you've gathered.
Yeah.
Like, maybe because the time you have off, you need to actually sleep and rest. And don't get it twisted, I feel like some people are built for that. Like, they're built to do lots of work, and I feel like some people have that energy, they've got that vim. Personally, that's not me, but they've got that vim and they can keep going. I think the problem is, like you said, Faith, like assuming that everyone else can do that and not actually extending grace to actually be like, some people excel in certain areas. I know we all sometimes say in our job CVs, I thrive in a high-paced, busy environment, and deep down you're like, no, you're there with your earphones in, slowly typing away at your emails, because that's what you feel like your employers want to hear. But the idea that everyone can do that, but I don't know if everyone can be in a situation where their loved ones are dying, or you're actually physically unwell, but you have to now like struggle to work because your employer won't let you have time off.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's important to know what you need as an individual, because that, for me, I always say, yeah, it's not about how much money you make. It's actually about how you spend it, and how you really manage your finances. Do you get what I mean? Like, some people
Mm.
make 80K, and by the end of it they have nothing left. And
Mm.
some people make 20, 25, and they're able to save well, able to provide for the family, able to, do things that other people can't. Like, and even just doing little things like putting your money to work, like what Emmanuel said, is important as well. Like, you don't necessarily have to now go and find a job that pays more, but it's stealing all your hours. But maybe invest, find like a good investment account, open that, and put some of your money in there as well. So yes, there are good motivations for making more money, but you also need to weigh that against, if I do make more money in this way, let's say I get a different type of job that pays more, how does that affect my personal life? How does that affect my time with my family? How does that affect my time with God and my community? Does that mean that I'm not able to go to small group anymore because I'm running over at work all the time? Like, we need to consider these little things as well when we are thinking about ways to make more money.
That's good.
Yeah. What advice would you have for like someone who is actually in a work culture where it is working overtime, because I believe that the banking sector and like the finance sector tends to be like that. That's just an example here, but then even in China, I believe they have like a 9-9-6, where it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and that's 6 days a week. So they just have a constant like working culture, and that's crazy to think about. But I remember when I just recently graduated from uni, and I would meet new people who were also graduates, when they would tell me about their working schedules. And sometimes they'd tell me they were like in the office at 1 a.m. and it's like banking and finance. And I would say,
What
does
are you
this
doing? Sorry, I'm
does
so
this
confused.
sound this doesn't sound normal? Like, you're already 21, 22, and this is what you're doing. This is not healthy. So like, what if you're doing this now, where does it stop? Like, how do you stop yourself? Because it becomes the norm. And Emmanuel's laughing because I feel like he has
He's done it.
something to say.
Experience.
God has delivered me. Let's just put it, because like 2019, 20, believe me when I tell you, I used to work like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Like literally, because sometimes I'll get home at 12:01 from one client to another client, and it was so celebrated. It was so celebrated where you feel like, yeah, even you, when you're coming home, you put the Instagram up, grinding. This is what we're doing. We're grinding. And to think about where I am now with it, I can only laugh and give God glory, because yeah, it's crazy. I feel like have a very strong sense. The advice I'd give, so the advice that this me would give me last year or the year ago, a year ago, is don't allow this to completely cloud purpose and destiny for you. You know that this isn't what your life should be all about, because those kind of environments, they find a way of convincing you that this is what life is for you. This is what life is all about. So you have to constantly remind yourself that there's more. And where what kind of changed for me, and this is where my advice will stem from, is don't compromise on that place, on that secret place with God, where you're in worship and you're in the word, where you allow his truth to be what grounds you, where that's where you get your identity and your calling and your purpose for. And if necessary, take frequent breaks, like get around other people who are not in that environment, who do not celebrate it all of the time. Go on retreats. If church is doing retreats, go on retreats, have a week off. Speak to mentors. Like, so something that I had to do was, I realized, because where I work as well, there's a lot of Christians there. So it's like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because everything you need, it's a place where you can even pray for people if they need prayer. Like, there's no, oh, I have to like whisper about Jesus. It's you can literally, like, sometimes somebody has a need, like they're in pain or whatever, and I would pray for them in front of the whole office. So I love that. But at the same time, everybody kind of speaks the same language as well. Everybody wants to get their bread. Everybody wants to be financially free and retire by the age of 30. Everybody wants...
Sorry, what, 3-0?
Yeah, everybody wants to retire at the age of 30. I mean, it's possible, and I can't knock... Do you know what? I feel like, listen, I might even be one of those people, by the grace of God. I might even be one of those people. But what I would say is, get around other people who speak a different language, who are motivated by things that are different, so that you can gain that new perspective and weigh it. Because it's very difficult if what is always being preached and shoved down your throat is work. Even if your baby's in the hospital, work. Even if it's this is that, work. If you're constantly hearing it, it becomes a stronghold in your mind. So I would say, put yourself in other environments. You know, yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah. And did you want to say something, Faith?
No, go on.
And I was gonna say, because I was just looking up something that I thought I read ages ago, but I just wanted to double check that it wasn't fake facts, fake news. And I think even when it comes to us being as consumers, this is a bit of a kind of divergent, but when it comes to us being consumers, I think we also need to be aware of the impacts that we have in the environment that we live in. because I was reading, so there was an article during lockdown that I saw in one of the East Asian countries where I think delivery drivers, for example, they were working like 21, 22-hour shifts back to back to back. And there was like a period of time where about 14 of them.
That's not possible with sleep.
No, they don't sleep. And
Oh.
about 14 of them died within like close time of each other. And they were quite young people as well. And I was so shocked. And I was like, well, because in that country, they have it's quite normal for you to get same day delivery a few hours after you order something. And I remember during lockdown when I was ordering off Amazon, and you now started seeing news about like people from Amazon complaining that their working hours were inhumane, people were getting disabled from working from large corporations as well. And even when we think about like overworking and we think about getting that bread and, you know, what we can do with the riches that we have, it's not often they actually think about how does this impact other people around you? Because a lot of the time we think about the environment, which is very important, like recycle and stuff like that. But when in your place of rest, or where you want to actually enjoy the riches that you've gained, is it at the expense of someone else's health, someone else's time, someone else's energy? And we live in a world where people are going to be exploited. Like we literally live in a fallen world where people are going to be exploited, and I don't know if there's going to be any way around that. But actually thinking past yourself and thinking, what impact am I having with the way that I'm behaving? Because all these times you hear stories of like people who are making businesses and all these things, but like they've not paid someone's invoice, or like they're overworking the people that are working in their team. It's true, because they have receipts of this person collected this business, they did this, and I did not get a penny out of it. And as a Christian, you also have to have some integrity in getting those riches, which is very, very good. Are you overworking someone? You know, do you now have this kind of crazy capitalist mindset where you're like, I'm gonna get my peas and I don't care who sees? Ooh, turn up. Or like, am I gonna cheat people? Am I gonna overcharge people? Because sometimes if someone doesn't know better, you can technically like overcharge and get away with it. And do you know how you sleep at night? With no conscience.
Well, you sleep with a fuller bank account. So
Hooray. But like it's these things as well, because I think like when we have this conversation, we just tend to look at ourselves, but actually what in terms of your behavior and how you interact with other people, that's not something that I've actually heard being spoken about from a Christian perspective.
That's so good.
Yeah, let me just say this. So obviously in 1 Timothy 6:10, the Apostle Paul in his letters, let me read it so I don't paraphrase. He said he was speaking to his disciple, you know, his young G, Timothy, you know, that guy.
Funny, because that was actually in my head when I remember he was talking.
The Spirit is here.
Yeah, the Spirit is one.
Moving.
Yeah, so 1 Timothy 6:10 says, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Obviously, normally the misquoted version is money is the root of all evil. And I believe that's from a movie or from a song, but that's not the actual quote. Yeah. So I was thinking, even in the church, because obviously back in the days, Apostle Paul is writing letters to Timothy saying, listen, there's people out here that are trying to get this bread, this peas, and they're so focused on it that they're falling away from the faith. What do you think of that in relation to because I feel like it's kind of seeped into the church as well, in regards to like the prosperity gospel. So yeah, the floor is open.
You know what? That's so interesting as well, because when you were, there were two verses that were playing on my mind as Aramide was talking, and you mentioned one of them. But I think they kind of like work very closely together, because what you read within 1 Timothy, where it says love of money, people have pierced themselves with many griefs. Other versions say sorrows as well. And it's funny because if you kind of weigh that against Proverbs 10:22, it says, for the blessing of the Lord makes rich and adds no sorrow. So the 1 Timothy says they pierce the sorrow, but God's blessing makes rich, but it adds no sorrow. So for me, it's like where the best way to kind of measure it is this like a good grid for it being knowing whether it's healthy or not is it coming with sorrow where I'm causing myself sorrow, I'm causing my family sorrow, I'm causing my soul sorrow, I'm causing my relationship with God sorrow. And as Aramide rightly pointed out as well, there is now sorrow for externally as well, because now people are being cheated because there's no integrity with the way you're doing it. You're making them kill themselves and break their backs so that your pockets can get fatter as well. But where if it's the Lord's way, God blessing makes rich and it has no sorrow. And for me, I feel like the Lord's blessing, because wealth will like physical wealth, like money, will never be the benchmark of whether somebody is like pious or whether someone is not. So I can't look at you because you have money and think, oh, you're extremely spiritual, or I can't look at you because you don't have money and think, oh, you're very holy. That's never going to be the benchmark. Because there are people who don't have relationships with God that are extremely wealthy, and there are people who don't have relationships with God that are also very broke as well. So it's not like that's the good
yes. Can I just add this in? There's also the whole notion that if you have a lot of money, it's because you're a super uber Christian because God has blessed you with material wealth.
Yeah, that is just, all of that is just false gospel. That's not Bible. That's none of that. And where I think God makes wealth or makes you rich is it prospers the whole being, where wealth, I believe, for the kingdom is there isn't lack in the context of your soul, where your soul, there's peace, there's actual peace. And it doesn't mean that things around you are like there's no absence of, it doesn't mean that there's no conflict, doesn't mean that there's no pressure, but then there's this internal peace that you have because of your consciousness of the Holy Spirit. And for me, that's wealth, where your mind is at peace as well. And then that gives room for creativity and all of that, because you don't feel like somebody is like just smashing your head with I don't know, because of all of the hustle,
all the evil you've done. Yeah,
all the evil you've done as well. So I feel like the way to know where it's unhealthy, where it's slipped into idolatry is, yes, you have all of this money, but this money has actually pierced you. And whether it's your family, you put all your energy and all your time in making money, you neglected your girlfriend, you neglected your fiance, you neglected your wife. Now she wants nothing to do with you because like you married the business and not her. Or your children are now growing up with an absent father because for you thought fatherhood was getting the bread and putting money on the table, but you didn't actually bless them with the best present you can give your child, which is your presence. Oh, the poet is now coming out. Sorry. But essentially what I'm saying is something will pay the price. Sorrow will come, but God's way is he will bless you according to his calling for your life, according to your purpose in him, according to everything he's called you to. He will bless you to be able to carry you out. Because if he provides, if he calls you, then he will give the provision for whatever he's called you for. And as long as you're kind of still within that place of intimacy with him, there will be no sorrow. And the riches may not be, like if you compare yourself to someone who has £1 million in his account, and you think that's what riches is, you'll deceive yourself into thinking you're not rich. But when you have a bigger picture of looking at wealth and you see, ooh, relationships are thriving, I can breathe easy, I can sleep well, I'm at peace, I have joy, you know, and I love God and I'm aware of his love for me, then you understand that you're rich. You're probably even more rich than the person who has £1 million and they've sacrificed their mental health, their soul, their relationships, all on the altar for physical money. So yeah, I think that's a very, very important point to kind of look at and consider.
Yeah. Faith?
Definitely. So many thoughts were going through my mind as you were speaking. And I've just forgot everything. But there was one thing that I was thinking. I think the rise of hustle culture has kind of like come hand in hand with the rise of influencer culture. So I think it's really come to light with the influencer culture, where you now see, because like people were starting businesses before.
Molly May.
Yeah, Molly May and PLT and all of these things. It's like, oh, you have to do it too. And yeah, people are starting businesses before, but now it's more in your face, because you're watching someone on YouTube, and the next minute they have a Bible plan that they're selling to you, or next minute they have this that they're selling to you. And not to say that that is wrong, it's definitely not wrong, but then, like what Emmanuel said before, with comparison, it's very easy for us to then sit back and say, oh, this person's a Christian, and they're able to do the work of God and still make money through doing the work of God. But then it's then very easy also for lines to start getting blurred, where it's like, maybe I can make money doing the work of God, but it's like, again, are you called to make
Mm.
money doing the work of God? Is that what God wants you to do? Or is that what God wants that person to do? So I think even when we look at influencers and when we look at the way they live their lives for Christians, like just going back to the question you asked about hustle culture entering the church, I think it's because we see Christian influencers and we see them starting businesses, and we see them, making money in these different ways. And then people can sit back and watch that and say, oh, maybe I need to do that as well, maybe I should do that as well, maybe this is a good form for me to also make money. Whereas again, we just need to sit back and actually analyze, well, that's their life and that's okay for them to live, but how am I supposed to live my life? And I think also being careful when we are in, I guess, in the influencer world, and how we portray the things that we do and how we showcase that. Because
Mhm.
again, if you're an influencer, you influence people. So now it's like, what are you influencing them to do? um I've come across things where, like, you see pastors saying that if you don't have money, or if you don't have investments, are you really a Christian? Is God really with you? And it's like, what does that have to do with the gospel? What does my investment account have to do with the gospel? It has nothing to do with the gospel. But if we teach, again, like what Emmanuel said, as a Christian, you need to be wise. And what does it mean to be wise? Is to know God and to follow his will and to do what pleases him. And what pleases him is to steward the things that he has given you well. And that includes your finances. That teaches people that you're putting God first, and by putting God first, we utilize the things that he has given us in a way that pleases him. So it's not, oh, because you know God, you should automatically be a millionaire. It's because you know God, whatever, how much, how little, how big, utilize that well, use that well. If it means that you need to take a course on to educate yourself financially, which I think is very important. I think everyone should have financial education. I think a lot of us don't. And that's why we find ourselves in this rut in the first place, because we always think that we don't have enough. The amount of people that think £1 million is a lot of money. Yes, it's a lot of money. I'm not saying that
Oh,
it's not.
sorry,
No, no, but you're
sorry,
but
sorry.
literally you're 1 pound away from not
Wow,
having a million.
wow.
No,
Let
no,
me
but
have a bit,
I
Let me just have a tiny
no,
bit.
but deep it,
no,
guys,
no,
deep it. You're 1 pound away from having less than a million.
Facts.
literally,
Yeah.
literally. Like, and the thing is, it is a lot of money, yes, but you can lose that money very easily if you don't know what to do with it and if you don't know how to use it well. Do you get what I mean? And the same way, if you have 50K, if you have 25K, if you do not know how to use your money well, you will lose it, and you will always think that you don't have enough. I have friends that it's everything is, I don't have money, and I had to speak to one of them, and I told him, like, when you say you don't have money, you're literally telling, all you're telling me is that you're not able to manage your finances well, because you're working. You're actually working. You have a job, so you should have money. Like, so if you're telling me all the time you don't have money, you're not managing your finances well, and that needs to change. Like, we need to find a way to work that out and to ensure that that's not something that happens. Because even if it's just 25K that you're making, that is money for you to manage and manage well. But a lot of us want to be buying things that we can't afford and want to be driving cars that we can't afford. Of course, you're not going to have money. And that's like, we need to learn as Christians, especially, to manage our money well. That's what I think.
So
So
I've got. Oh,
Go on.
No, I was just saying that was so good. That's what I was.
I was gonna ask, because sometimes I say I don't have money, but I know that my account is like the account that I don't touch has money. Is that what your friend means? Because sometimes you have to say you don't have available money. I think it's also okay to say that, because just because, like you said, you have money doesn't mean that you should now be going to every conference, buying everything that your friends want, or buying everything that your parents want you to purchase. I think using some common sense.
Yeah, that is definitely what he means. But what I mean is that, well, you saying that is a lie, because you do have money. Like, money in your savings account is your money. Do you get what I mean? Money in your investment account is your money.
I have to take my name for that money.
Like,
is it mine?
It is your money, but you just don't want to spend it.
I don't
which
even
is
open the account. Yeah.
And that's fine. We don't, like, I'm not saying we should be out here reckless and spending everything we have. Definitely not. But we don't need to say we don't have money, because we do. Because when you have that mindset of, I don't have money, like, for me, I don't want to say this. Okay. Like, I have money, right? I have money in my accounts, and sometimes it's like not that much. I don't have that much money, but what I'm saying is, like, you have, like, just like all of us. No, like, all of us, we have money in our savings account, right? And sometimes I just look at it and I just think, it's just sitting there. And I can't walk around this life with the mindset I don't have money, because then every time I come across someone in need, I'm like, I don't have money, because that money is not to be touched. But what if that money is to be touched for that person in that moment? What if that person that, like, they need £100, and that £100 is for me to give them, because it's just sitting there. It's not exactly doing anything. It's actually sitting there, and I could literally utilize it and put that into good use. But if I'm walking around every day, I don't have money, like, how is that going to create a habit of gratitude, or a habit of knowing and realizing that I have the ability to give, and I should, how God has called us to? Yes, it's in the savings account, and yes, it's probably for a house or something that you want in the future, but God has called us to be there for people now, to be there for people today, to meet their needs today. Like, I think it even says it in the Bible, like, if someone comes to you and says, I need this, and all you can do is say, I'll pray for you, it's not good enough. If you have the means to help them, help them. Don't say, well, I don't have money, when you have 5k in your savings account,
that one
and
is
someone's
different.
asking
That's
you
just
for £50.
like, that's just not being generous.
Yeah, so for me, that's why I would never be like, I don't have money. Like, if I don't want to spend it, I'll say, I don't want to buy that, or I don't want to spend money on that, but I do have money. Some people genuinely do not have money, and they can say that, but for me, I actually do, and I can't walk around thinking that I don't when I do. So that's why I was trying to convey to him.
Yeah. Do you think that hustle and grind culture makes it harder for people to part ways with their money if they don't get, like, a direct return from it?
100%. Because if your mindset is you are grafting.
Sorry, let me just add this as well, because obviously in the church, in certain churches, when you give, well, they preface their whole notion with, as you give, you will receive. And normally the receiving isn't non-financial things. The receiving is money. So people are thinking, if I give money, I'll get money. So to them, being charitable and giving something and then not getting it back sounds a bit ridiculous.
It sounds like loss. They see it as deficit. They don't see it as I'm giving. They see it as loss, minus, negatives.
I think people don't understand the concept of giving.
Thank you.
Like, it's, when the Bible says it's better to give than to receive, why? Because when you give, it means that you have. When you receive, it means that you're in lack. Do you get me? Like, why would you want to be in lack? Like, for me, I'm always grateful that I can give, because that means that I actually have, like God has, not to say that God doesn't provide for people, but this certain thing that this person requires of me, God has actually given me. Like, I actually have an abundance. I actually have in plus, whereas other people are in lack. So why would I now be saying, oh, let me give, and then I'm waiting for them to return something for me? Like, to be honest, I don't really want to be in a place where people are giving me money. Like, I want to be the person that gives, because when people,
on the other hand, I will accept your money.
Jira wants both.
I do both.
I will accept your money.
it depends on what kind of money we're talking.
Hacky Faith is a millionaire, so we.
I'm not a millionaire. I'm
The
not
rest
a
of us on this
millionaire.
podcast will accept coins, cash, stocks,
I take
transfer.
Bitcoin. No, I'm joking.
Bitcoin, NFT, you didn't even add those. You know what, when you're talking, what this brings to mind is the fact that I think because earning, like the channels in which you can use to earn money, I feel like it's just expanded in this last couple of years, right? And so before, perhaps you had to do a specific type of role with this, which would have required years of training, or you had like generational wealth. Maybe there's a lot of nepotism where you work, where like in the government or like in certain businesses where, you know, it's this and sons, right? So you know that there's going to be money coming down the line. I think because money is now so accessible, people just don't know how to act, especially as Christians, because no one's really kind of giving you the blueprint on how to move through this process in a way that's honoring to God, and actually like portrays Christianity in a good way, and doesn't like you said, Emmanuel, like require you to basically sell your soul. And I think sometimes some of us may have carried like the baggage of our parents. I know, for instance, we had this conversation yesterday, me and Faith and a few other people, about, for example, how a lot of our parents are in survival mode, and they've been in the survival mode for a long time, especially let's say if you're born in a different country and you moved to another country to work and to have a better life, where you're just trying to hoard. You're not really resting. You don't go on holiday. Your holiday is to go to the home country so you can do some more work. You have to send money back home. You're
so
hoarding
true,
things
you
in your
know.
house because you're scared of not having enough. And then so now, as like children of those people, when you now actually have access to money, it's you overdo it, because you're not, now I need to rake in the cash, so I never had to go through what my parents went through. But I'm like, actually, you're in a different situation. Yes, you're earning more, but you're still not resting. You still don't have peace of mind. You're still trying to acquire these goods. And I'm not saying everyone does it like that, because some people do actually sit down and think, what does God want? What do I want? What can benefit me for the long run, rather than trying to work hard and fast for the short run? But how can I actually elongate this for it to benefit me, my family, so that my parents don't have to keep on working in the future generation? But I feel like people have come across the stack of cash and they're just trying to take it all in and aren't really thinking about the future. Or actually, what does God say about this? Like, is there a way I can actually go through this and I can still hustle, I can work hard, and I can make that money, and I can manage it, I can give? But I think it's like coming across like a pot of gold and literally just hoarding it all in and just keep digging the tunnel and not really thinking about anything else. It's survival mode, but it just looks slightly different.
Yeah, it's a poverty mindset.
Yeah, what you're saying is so powerful, because there's two things that is coming to mind now, where, like I said earlier, that I'm in a position where God has really been speaking to me and I have to make some drastic decisions. So something that you said is I'm actually going to go on a journey from next year to kind of like learn a lot. And for me, I'm thinking church. I'm thinking we have to understand as a body how to actually steward this thing and do it God's way. Because the reason why the Bible says that you can't serve God and mammon, because obviously mammon is like the God behind money. Other versions say you can't serve God and money, is because the world has its entire system about how it works with money, and it infiltrates into the church, it infiltrates into so much. But God cares about our entire being, and money, there's a way that God would want to do money, where it's the service more than anything. And for me personally, I'm going on a journey in terms of developing that, and I feel like I'm just excited to go through that journey with God anyway. But the other thing that I was going to speak on is something that Jire brought up in terms of the whole kind of sowing to get more. And you said, I'm saying you probably don't know who you are. You're the person I can see right in front of me. But you mentioned in terms of people don't understand the concept of giving. So, and I feel like what the issue with the prosperity gospel and the issue with not giving from the right place or giving from the right heart is, for you, the money that you're giving to church or the money that you're giving to the gospel becomes about you, and that kind of disturbs disrupts the whole concept of giving in the first place. The way God did giving is, I'm giving because I love. For God so loved the world that he gave. And love doesn't seek its own. That's what 1 Corinthians 13 says. So if I'm giving, and I'm giving purely because I believe the money is going to come back to me, the whole motive is skewed anyway. So people find themselves in positions where they're giving all that they have, and now they cannot give anymore. They can't even tithe anymore, because it's like, either you lie to me or I lie to myself, or maybe I'm giving, and you know what's so funny? Like, pastors will say, oh, the reason why you didn't see the return is because there was no faith in your giving. You just gave. I'm thinking,
No.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It puts the onus back on the person and makes you not only the perpetrator of your own downfall, but also the victim of your downfall.
You vindicate yourself as well, rather, because I do believe that, the concept of sowing and reaping is there. Like, the Bible talks about sowing and reaping. Whatever a man sows, that he will reap. There's so many things to say that when you give in the gospel, it does yield a return. And it's not just money as well. Even within the parable of the talents, the man got the 5, he turned it into 10. The person that buried the 1, even that one that he didn't have was given to the one that had. So there's, even within like your spiritual gifts, like the concept of everything within the kingdom is, whatever I sow, it would always yield more. Jesus said, unless a kernel of wheat goes into the ground and die, it cannot bear much fruit. So the more you give, the more it kind of yields for you. Not just money, just kingdom and giving in general. But that can't be the reason why you give. Because if that's the reason why you give, then you miss the whole point, because you're supposed to do everything that you do out of love for God and out of love for his people. That has to be what's motivating you. And if the kind of nature of things allow you to kind of see a return from it, we thank God and we give God all the glory, because I'm seeing a return. But that's not why I'm giving anyway. So if it doesn't come back in the way that I'm not necessarily expecting it to, that's not why I gave in the first place. So either way, it's like I'm in a good place because I'm giving because I love God and his work and his people. And I'll just allow things to run its course. But when you manipulate people, you emotionally blackmail them to give, and then nothing comes back. And they don't want to give anymore because you lied to them. Yeah. You kind of put them in this situation where they don't actually properly understand why they should give. And this is something that kind of, it really irks me. Like when I see church pastors, what they've made this whole thing is just like, Yeah.
I feel like that's a topic for another.
I don't even think they always do it with money. I think they know what their congregation wants. And I think if you hold it up and you say, if you can give whatever is it, your time, your devotion, everything you have, and you can get this in return. Whenever people don't, that well that you keep trying to draw from will just dry up. And then you end up with a congregation that's essentially like they don't love God anymore because they believe that God doesn't see them. Yeah. And now you, the trickster, whatever it is you were gaining from them, you will be gaining in dreads and drips. And who benefits from that now?
Nobody. Think the problem is that we paint the return and we make it look like a certain thing, whereas it can look like so many different things. It can produce joy. It can be like what Emmanuel said, increasing the love that you have for people, that you have for God. It can produce gratitude in you, like, God, wow, thank you for putting me in a position to be able to help this person. But when we say, oh, you give and God will give you money, or God will give you a job, or God will give you a child if you sow this seed, like people are now attaching giving to a certain thing, and when that doesn't happen, it produces disappointment, because when you expect something, it doesn't happen, you become disappointed. And who disappointed you? You disappointed yourself, because you didn't sow, you didn't do something based on the truth. You did it based on a lie that someone else fed you. But when you actually look at the truth of the gospel and of the Bible, he says, it doesn't say give and I will give you this. It just says give with joy, and it will be given back to you. But you don't know what will be given back to you. How many times have you given someone and they've appreciated you, and you were filled with joy, like, wow, like I didn't really want to do that anyway, but I'm so glad that I did, because I feel so good about it now. Like, I'm so much joy has filled my heart because I was able to help this person. And you don't think about it again, like, oh, I hope this person gives me that £10 back or something like that. You just, on that joy, like, thank you, Jesus, thank you that I was able to help this person in such a way. But when you think, oh, money will be given to you, a job will be given to you, a child will be given to you, you're waiting for something that may never happen.
Maybe it's even your grandchild that will see the return of that seed.
Honestly,
Maybe it's
honestly.
You're blocking the blessings of your. Please, let's not even get to that one. But wow. When we thought of this episode, I didn't know that we would go to this direction, and even I benefited from this. I wanted us to name and shame, kidding, and really benefited.
Yes, I
And
never knew that Faith was so rich, but
I never knew. No, I never knew.
To be honest,
and
I
she's
am
so
rich.
subtle with it too.
I am rich in Christ. I'm rich in joy. I'm rich
and
in
I will
love.
benefit from it too. Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Yes, amen. You don't ask any questions if you see him at your house. Just open your purse. And I guess for our listeners, are there any key takeaways? If, let's say, that we're just going to skip to this part of the episode, what is that one thing that you would like them to take away from this regarding hustle culture, money, generosity of heart, motivations, why we do things? What would be the key takeaway, if you have multiple, that you'd like them to really
I would
take?
say money is not the sauce. God is the sauce. God is the sauce. He's sovereign and supplies all. So I was going to say work for God, but put God first and let it only be God, and everything else will follow from there. If you run after money, bankrupt will await you, or sorrow and grief, like we just read in 1 Timothy 6:10. But if you run after God, there's abundance and joy and eternity with him forever. So, yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just be aware of extremes and see how you are in the world around you. Measure success and measure wealth, not by how much money is in your bank account or in your pocket, but the quality of your entire being, like you holistically. How's your mind? How's your heart? How are your relationships with people? And measure success more by that, because then you have like a bigger picture. And money isn't the issue. The love of money surpassing the love of God is the issue. Love him, trust him, depend on him, have a relationship with him where you know what he's called you for, and trust and believe that he will supply everything you need to fulfill your calling that's in him. And life will be good for you. Yeah.
Excellent stuff.
I would say to just stop, pause and actually just reflect. Like, what is for me? What have you called me to do on this earth? Do you get me? And I think when we hustle, I think we're all chasing purpose ultimately. And that changes over time, what that looks like for society. And in the generation society we live in now, that is hustle and, securing the bag and all these things that we like to say. So I would say just pause in that, on that journey that you're on, just pause and ask God, what is for me and what do you want me to do and what do you want me to focus on? And then I was reading this Bible verse this morning. It says, give yourself to the Lord, trust in him and he will help you. Like, literally just give yourself to God, trust him, trust that he provides, trust that he's with you, trust that he's guiding you, and he will help you. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, guys. And mine, I will just take a little bit from everyone. definitely balance. You could be hustling hard and neglecting everything, or you could have lots of money in your account and be hiding it and not be generous with it, even if you're not hustling. I think we definitely need to look into our hearts, look into our accounts, look into whether we're actually generous with what we have, how other people are impacted by our actions, and actually say, what are we actually chasing after? Is it fear that's driving us to hoard, or is it fear that's driving us to actually strive? Is that God-centered? And Mark 8 verse 36 says, what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? Anything that we place above God can snatch us, can snatch our soul, can snatch our attention, whether it's fear, whether it's people, whether it's money. Whatever you place above God, it is an idol, and you need to recognize it as that. God is the giver of all things, and you know that even if you're seeking riches, if you seek the Lord first, that does not mean that you also can't have those good things as well. It's not just, God is not just for like the poor people, quote unquote. Like, God is for everybody. So yeah, and yeah, that is the end of the Second Nature podcast, episode 43. Jira, would you like to do that thing that we do that everyone that comes on gets confused about?
Word association. Let me say that from the offset so people don't get confused. So I say a word and you just add it on. I'll begin right now. With that, we say peace,
love,
Joy.
Oh,
wow, you both said joy.
You
That's
said-
fine.
that's it.
That's okay.
yeah,
And all them
them things there.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.